What's up, guys? I wanted to talk about Sinners because it seems like a lot of people are really loving the movie, and I can understand why, but I also can't really understand why at the same time. So for me, um, I knew nothing about the movie. I saw the poster going in to watch Mickey 17, and I'm thinking, Ryan Coogler, Michael B. Jordan, this looks like some sort of war movie or something. I feel like the marketing after watching the movie, I don't know how the heck you would even market this movie because when I saw the poster didn't really do anything for me. It didn't make me want to go see it, but I was looking for movies to go watch, and Sinners I saw was playing, and I looked it up, and of course it had rave reviews. Everyone was loving it, so I'm thinking, what the heck? It's got to be good then. It's 2.5 hours. People just don't love 2.5 hour movies, especially nowadays with people's attention spans and stuff. And me, I don't like knowing anything about the plot. I don't watch trailers. I don't do none of that. But my girlfriend, she wants to know what she's going into, so I read the plot, and two brothers come back from Chicago and decide to start up a bar, and of course it gets overrun with vampires. But the description doesn't say anything about vampires. I don't remember, or maybe it did, but I remember having that spoiled for me that there was vampires in it. And immediately, as soon as I heard vampires, I said, "Sold." You don't gotta tell me nothing else. I can't remember the last vampire movie we had. What, Morbius? Yeah, so I was pretty stoked to go watch this movie, and I feel like the first two acts are really fucking good. The first act, yeah, the first two acts in particular, because obviously the the cinematography and the music, man, the sound design and the music in this movie is superb. It's really great, and also the writing, the dialogue, the character development, or the way the story develops the characters in the world they inhabit is very well done. Um, that being said, the thing that kind of two things really kind of were wonky for me was the whole vampire thing, because once the vampires were introduced, like they kind of they introduced them very briefly, and then they're like, okay, well, we had to set up the vampires, so when they show up at the barn, it's not just like, oh, there's vampires all of a sudden. So you have that brief scene, and then once the vampires fully come to the barn, and that's when the movie kind of like slowly kind of starts falling apart pretty much. um the movie lets you know right from the get that it's gonna have horror elements, because the whole I really love um when the main character goes into the church, Sammy goes into the church, and then there's just like the jump cuts, the the scary ass jump cuts that really catches you off guard, and you're like, whoa. And then it plants that in your mind, and then as the movie goes on, you forget about that because you're so invested in the characters and how they interact with each other. And of course, the performances from everyone across the board is stupendous. The acting is really amazing, especially Michael B. Jordan, because he has to play two different characters, and I think he did that, you know, excellent stuff. Um, and then when the horror stuff comes back into play, like I remember being on edge when the vampire comes back and is introduced to the story, and the lady, the Indians, the Native Americans, they come in and they're like, well, this is your problem now because it's dark and we got to get the fuck out of here. I thought they were going to come back into play later in the movie, but I guess not, which was kind of a little bit of a disappointment for me. But that whole scene where she's going to find her husband, I remember that like being very on edge there because of the jump scares previously. So I thought the way it sets that up in the beginning with the jump scares and then just letting you forget and then having the horror elements come back into play, I was like, whoa, that's really cool. Um, but yeah, when the vampires come back into play, I keep saying that when the vampires start laying siege to the barn. I like the buildup of that, but um, the movie had been so grounded up until that point. Aside from the other horror elements, I felt like it just kind of just didn't congeal because the vampires are introduced by the whole Sammy's music transcending different eras or whatever scene. A lot of people seem to love that. I thought it was kind of it was cool, but it was just it felt so just out of place, just so bizarre. And usually I'm so like down for stuff like that. But the movie had been so grounded up until that point that when that happened, I was kind of like, the fuck is happening? Like, I get what's it's supposed to symbolize or whatever, but I was just like, I don't know. And it just went on for just a little bit too long. I was like, I guess that was supposed to be like a major like plot point, but it just kind of it didn't really resonate with me. I can't really explain why. It just seems so kind of out of place. Um, and then yeah, the vampires they start killing everyone, and then this is when like there's so many kind of just like plot contrivances and Deus Ex Machinas kind of happening. The vampires they'll be in the barn and then they run away because characters have plot armor, or there's so many different ways you could probably explain why that happened. But the main thing that really like was like that it broke my immersion is when the Asian lady is like, "Come on in, you motherfuckers." I was just like, I mean, the vampires had to get in somehow, but I was like, that was just like, it felt so forced. And then the drunk guy is just like, I'm just gonna like kill myself. I'm just gonna let them escape. Even it's just like what? And then the vampires like, there's so many of them, and then there's so many people that still survive. You're just like, what? And then everyone, the vampires all run away. I was just like, what? And then my girlfriend was telling me like, well, it seemed like a lot of vampires were just there just because it seemed like there was only specific vampires that had very specific targets. And I was like, sure, but I was just like, it broke my immersion too much. It's hard for me to even acknowledge any sort of justification for any of that. Um, and then also like the main vampire was really cool, and I wish we got more of him. Um, I don't know what I get. There's so much stuff that kind of just went over my head, like the whole because I was talking to my girlfriend after the movie. I was like, I don't really like get the themes because I was going into it like they set the whole tone of like racism and all that stuff. So I thought that was gonna be like the main theme of the movie, but it was just like one of the themes. It seems like this movie had so many ideas and so many themes that it kind of just didn't all come together for me. So I was just kind of like, this is entertaining, but I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to get out of this because there's so much in it other than this is, you know, cool characters and vampires. And I think that's my main complaint with the movie is there's so many like ideas in it that they don't all coalesce. They're all done to a they're all executed to a good degree, but for the most part, but there is some kind of loose ends in there that kind of unravel that thread where I'm just like, wait, I don't know about all this. And she's talking about how the main theme of finding a sense of community and finding a sense of belonging, finding a sense of purpose and all that. And I was like, yeah, those probably were the main themes, but like I said, it had all these other things kind of around it that kind of distracted from it. Um, I don't know. Overall, like the movie is really good. It's very entertaining, but uh, to see people say it's the best movie they've ever seen, or it's the best movie of the year, or the things that they really loved about it, I just can't, find myself getting behind that. It's just kind of like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know about all that. I don't know about all that hyperbole. Um, yeah, and then the end credit scene really hits home the idea of oh, the vampires are some sort of allegory for you know basic then also I'm kind of all over the place right now, but the whole naming the movie Sinners, I was asking my girlfriend, I was like, why would the movie be named Sinners? Like, because I guess she was said, well, maybe they were basically all brought together through sin, because essentially they're all brought together by money, because the Smokestack twins, they put together this bar and they basically get everyone to come together because they're like, hey, we're going to give you this really good price if you come here. But then the vampires are brought together to the bar because of the magic of music and the soul of music. So there's a lot there that I haven't really dissected now that I'm like speaking it out loud. I think there's a lot of depth to this movie that just still kind of has gone over my head. Um, yeah, I guess this is probably a way for me to kind of navigate everything. It's different when you think about it, and it's one thing when you think about it. It's another thing when you speak it into existence and you put it out into the world and you get feedback. It's like, yeah. This movie just has me feeling so conflicted because I remember walking out of it liking it but not loving it, and then seeing people loving it, and I'm like, why didn't I love it and they loved it? And I'm trying to just, you know, I haven't read any bad reviews or anything. I've just only read a couple of like Reddit threads of people talking about what they loved and all that. Yeah. So overall, yeah, this movie's pretty rad, but there's still a lot to for me to understand about it that I'm hoping, if you disagreed or agreed with anything I said, that you could put your, thoughts in the comment section below. And yeah, this movie has kind of reignited my um kind of drive to talk about movies, because recently I've just been or not talking about movies, but I've just been watching movies and just analyzing how they're made, the editing and all that, but I haven't really had anything quell or not quell, but bring out the passion and enthusiasm to talk about something, especially, I don't know. I mean, recently I watched this movie Unfaithful with Richard Gere and Diane Lane, and holy crap, that movie is so fucking good. Um, yeah, so watching that with Sinners, like those two movies are just like, whoa, I forgot there's good movies. um, anyways, I'm just going on a tangent. Anyways, go watch this movie, form your own opinions, smooch your movie.